Let's move to our next and last track of the day: innovation and managing human resources, passion for excellence, compassion for people. It's my great pleasure to invite Ms. Ajita PS, who is a founder treasurer of Annie. A very warm welcome and over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. That was a super fantastic session we just had. Fabulous questions, fabulous presentations, and a lot of take-home lessons. Now we move on to track 3. This is Ajita, and our session is on innovation in managing human resources, passion for excellence, compassion for people. The role and significance of human resources in healthcare and dealing with them compassionately while striving for excellence has become more significant than ever before in the current times of pandemic-related disaster and distress across the globe. Healthcare being such a people-intense service industry, managing the human resources appropriately has always been a challenge. How do we show compassion to those who lay down their lives? That reminds me that today is the death anniversary of Lini Sajish, who laid down her life in fighting Nipah in Kozhikode district of Kerala state in India, 21st May 2018. She laid her life to the supreme cause of service. I bowed my head in front of her memory. How do we show concern to those who go beyond the call of duty every single day? Showing compassion and concern by being accessible, by reaching out to them in person, and maybe by using technology in these times, by making their lives a bit more easier, by doing small little customized gestures. All will go in long way in being in touch with them. And most important, being with them as one among them. Yes, we are striving every day to look out for many more innovative ways to be more compassionate to our ever striving healthcare workforce in these trying times. In this track titled Innovation in Managing Human Resources, Passion for Excellence, Compassion for People, we have 3 eminent personalities speaking to us on 3 different aspects of this topic. I have the sheer pleasure and privilege of introducing our first speaker of the session to you, Mr. Harshvendra Soin, who is the Global Chief People Officer and Head Marketing at Tech Mahindra Limited. He is one of the extremely passionate and engaging Chief People Officer I have ever met, for I have had the good fortune of working with him at Fortis Healthcare. He has over 26 years of experience, and he was the Chief Executive Officer and Country Head at Tech Mahindra Limited in Canada and Chief People Officer at Fortis Healthcare Limited. He also worked with Aditya Birla Retail Limited, Bharti Enterprises, Bharti Retail, and also had a stint with the Oberoi Group. He has received numerous awards and recognitions, and to mention a few of them, the prestigious CHRO of the Year Award at the World HRD Congress Business Leader of the Year Awards in February 2021, Talent Magnet Award, Pride of HR Profession Award, Most Powerful Human Resources Professionals of India Award, to name a few in the long list. Mr. Soin is also a member of the Human Resources Committee at FICCI, Executive Committee at the Global Forum for Migration and Development, which is an initiative of International Organization of Employers, Geneva. We are very fortunate to have such a versatile global chief people officer speaking to us today, and he will be talking to us about what has changed in the human resources management in last one historic year of human suffering. Over to you, Harsh.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real privilege to speak to all of you who are the true COVID warriors at this time of pandemic. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about how the role of the people function has changed and what's going to be the new normal. My name is Harsh Soin, and I'm the Chief People Officer and the Head of Marketing globally for Tech Mahindra. We are an organization that has about 121,000 employees across 100 countries. And interesting to note, we have 130 nationalities that work for us. So I'm going to start projecting a small presentation that I have. It's truly been a year of difficulty and one of overwhelming emotions. I am sure all of you feel this. It's a difficult time with a lot of people challenges, and especially in healthcare. Dealing with the difficult emotions that you do day in and day out. Shortage of all kinds of resources, including obviously shortage of staff because people fall ill, and the lack of training to handle the challenges. So obviously it's been extremely difficult. At Tech Mahindra, we've really looked back and said, it's been a year of continuous reinvention for all of us. And especially, as I said, the people function, ladies and gentlemen, has had to reinvent itself fully. Let's take a look at what changed in HR. We went beyond what was earlier called employee engagement to really creating human experiences. You'll be surprised to know that today, humans and bots work together, and that's a reality. And I'll give you a couple of examples as we go forward. Trust, safety, and well-being, which really earlier people used to think is not very important, has come on the forefront. The training models have been redefined. No longer do we push people into a training room, but it's more like a Coke machine where people mix their own drinks, choose their own career, and then upskill themselves to achieve that career. Org structures, ladies and gentlemen, have completely changed. We have completely hybrid, dynamic, and fluid org structures, which means people across functions can work with each other as and when the need arises. So the hardline reporting structures are the thing of a past, and upskilling and reskilling has become humongously important in every single industry. As I talked about it earlier, the focus has shifted to holistic well-being of employees, whether it's intellectual, physical, psychological, environmental, even social and spiritual, and of course, financial. Any great good HR function or people function has to now look at a holistic wellness for its employees. I talked about how humans and machines work together. And here is an example. What at Tech Mahindra we've been able to carve in the people function for it to be a little more effective. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our first non-human employee in HR, and it's called K2. It's a humanoid, and all queries of employees around the globe are answered by this humanoid. It recognizes you by face, and for example, your leave balances, your entitlements, even your questions are answered by K2 24/7. And you can well imagine, especially in terms of the pandemic, K2 was completely untouched and always available 24/7. We have our chat bot, Asna, and Asna can not only sort of answer your queries, apply for leave on your behalf. All you have to tell your computer is, I want leave. And you will then quickly informs your superior, subordinate, and even your colleagues. It can also alter your calendar. And Asna, our yoga bot, can do yoga sessions for you virtually. So really, the power of the machine and human working together is massive. And it's now, and it's enhancing the experience of all employees. I've already talked about it, so I won't dwell on this slide, but clearly in the front line, there is a rise of virtual skilling, upskilling, and the fact that there is a continuous performance management and learning, which really translates into employee recognition, which is important. So it's not only important to upskill employees, but also to recognize your people. Who better than all of you to know this? You are caregivers who are special. And I'm sure all of you know that effective communication is the key. And it has to be two-way. And at this time, especially when there is crisis all around, we have to personalize the communication. So no longer is it mass communication by emails or mass communication by video chats. Even videos today, ladies and gentlemen, are personalized, which means, due to the two-channel or a multi-channel approach, you can watch that portion of the video that you want to. So everything has to be hyper-personalized. I talked about this earlier that HR or the people function has moved from employee engagement to now creating human experiences. At Tech Mahindra, I'll give you a few examples. We don't have any ID cards. All we have is facial recognition, where you come in, you look at the nice iPad, and your attendance is done. The good thing is it's also a moodometer. It recognizes 8 emotions. And ladies and gentlemen, every single day, I know the mood of every single location. So it's not by person, but by location. But imagine it's so beautiful, the experience that employees face. No longer do they have to carry those bulky ID cards. They don't have to swipe it everywhere. It's all by facial recognition. Similarly, all our policies, even our values are all gamified, which means if you have to be certified as an employee at Tech Mahindra, you have to do, be certified through a game which we call Rise with Dice, which is nothing but a snakes and ladder game, where you every time you encounter a snake, there is a question that pops up on our values, and you do have to answer that. Similarly, all our policy documents are gamified. Imagine if one of our employees was going abroad to another country, the person, he or she, has to pass what we call the dress code game, which means it's like a retail store. You choose the clothes that you wear, and if it's not appropriate, then you do it again. And only then your visa is applied for. Our variable pay schemes, our policy documents are all gamified. All this does it is, ladies and gentlemen, that we have moved away from hours and hours in a training room. Today, it's on the job, on the move, and online. We also have collaboration tools like TechMyT. It's a tool which is pretty cool, which is it allows you through the AI tool, which is artificial intelligence, to actually connect with people you don't know. The artificial intelligence tool actually connects you with 2 people and invites you to have a cup of tea together, even if it's virtual. The good news is that you're always in touch. And of course, at the time of pandemic, when people had to come to the office, we had Book My Seat app, which ensured that whenever you came to the office, because the occupancy was lower, you could book your seat from your house and come straight in. In the new normal, ladies and gentlemen, we have to bring in empathy. And we have a tool called AI Coach. If you're writing an email or if you're sending something, it analyzes your mood, and if it feels you are upset or anxious, it will tell you so. TechMyT already talked about it's important to stay connected, and it's important to be inclusive. So in the new normal, any people function to be successful has to be empathetic, connected, and, as we say, intentionally inclusive. In short, ladies and gentlemen, longevity in any business is about the people. And at the time of pandemic, especially, if we have to be successful, we have to forget the old HR function and we have to reinvent ourselves to truly be the new people function. And people function is very different from HR. So that's a few slides that I wanted to share with all of you. But honestly, no better than you to tell us what and how to connect with people, because there is no better person than all of you nurses who really taught us the power of human connections and the power to connect with people and take care of people you don't even know. Once again, it's been a real privilege to spend this time with all of you. I wish you all the best. And all I can say is I salute the spirit of all of you, and you have really made the whole country proud. Thank you very much.
That was an excellent illustration of the impact of intense pressure and unimaginable trauma had on human resources management in his company and around the world. Mesmerizing technology indeed. I'm reminded of Sophia, the humanoid, who got even a citizenship in Saudi Arabia, I believe. Look at the millennials who cling to their mobiles all the time. Technology can engage people. Technology can engage people meaningfully. Probably 2020 was the most impactful year in human resources in the human history itself. Machine learning and artificial intelligence has changed our perception and brought in many innovative solutions. I'm sure most of these changes are going to stay with us, and we, the rest of the world, has to learn from it and change the way we handle our largest asset, the people. Thank you, Mr. Harshvendra Soin, for that wonderful presentation. Now we move on to our second speaker, who is Dr. Mrs. Rosalind Rachel. She is principal of Madras Medical Mission College of Nursing, Chennai. She is an alumni of College of Nursing, Christian Medical College, Bellore, double masters in maternity nursing and human resource management, as well as got a postgraduate diploma in guidance and counseling. She received her doctorate in nursing from Vinayaga Mission University, Salem in 2014. She is a Senate member in the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University, Chennai, was a member of Board of Studies at Savitha University, and is academic council member at Chettinad University. All these are medical universities. She is inspector for colleges of nursing for the university, Indian Nursing Council, and the Tamil Nadu Nursing and Midwives Council. She is examiner and paper setter for 8 medical universities. She has held many academic positions in her 29-year-old career and had been the principal since 2008. She is the chair of Institutional Scientific Review Board, Research Advisory Committee, Institutional Ethics Committee, and Faculty Research and Development Committee. She has presented a total of 142 scientific papers in various national and international conferences and has many publications in indexed journals to her credit. She was the Tamil Nadu Chapter Secretary for Society of Midwives India for 10 long years and is an active member of Trained Nurses Association of India as well. Dr. Rosalind is going to share with us the survey conducted by Association of Nurse Executives India and in association with Signia Healthcare on an important aspect of management of nurses, which is nurse engagement. Over to you, ma'am.
Hi, greetings from the Association of Nurse Executives India. I'm Dr. Rosalind Rachel, Vice President of the Tamil Nadu chapter. I'm here to present to you a study conducted on nurse engagement. It's a survey which was jointly conducted by Annie and Signia Healthcare. Let me share I hope the screen is visible. Right. So study on nurse engagement. Employees, many times we feel are engaged when many different levels of employees are feeling fully satisfied and enthusiastic about their job and the organization. We find that many times the employees or the nurses who are working in an organization do not know their job responsibilities and they are not connected with the organization with which they work. They come, do their work, and ultimately they do not know what exactly is expected of them. Those employees or nurses, we call them as disengaged employees who are not poised to put in extra efforts for success. They don't like going for work most of the days. They are unlikely to recommend anybody to work in their place of where they are, and they do not want to even identify where they are working. Nurse engagement is the nurse's commitment and satisfaction with their job. Look what the Google says. 70% of the employees are unengaged. Only 30% of the employees are engaged. Based on this, a Gallup engagement hierarchy was created based on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which has 4 components. That is the basic needs. What do I get from the organization? The second part is the management support to the employees. What do I give to the organization? And the teamwork. Do I belong to the organization? And growth. How can we grow in an organization? Questions were based on these 4 areas of interest. The objective of the study is to assess how engaged are nurses in their workplace and how committed are the nurses to their organization. The methodology used for the study was a descriptive survey method. All nurses currently working in the hospital participated in the study. The sampling was a convenient sampling with 1,207 nurses. The tool used was a Google survey with a 5-point Likert scale, Gallup engagement tool, and an additional questions to understand their engagement to the nursing profession. The analysis goes like this. Type and size of the hospital. 98% belong to the private hospital setup, and in relation to the number of beds, a maximum of 65% of them worked in a hospital which had more than 301 beds. In relation to the states, 17 states participated in the study with a maximum with 26% from Delhi, Maharashtra 20%, 17.3% from Tamil Nadu, and 9% from Telangana. And the type of services provided, 52.1% of them had worked in a multi-speciality hospital with more than 1 ICU, and 43.4% of them in a tertiary care setup. These are the practicing nurses in the hospital. This is what we really wanted. And the qualification, 46.6% of them are BSc nurses and 34.7% of them are GNM nurses. Related to the role in the hospital, 61.4% of them were bedside nurses and 15.2% of them were team leaders. 13 questions were asked, which was adopted by a Gallup survey. And the questions, as I had earlier mentioned, was categorized under 4 basic headings. As I analyzed, I'll tell you what are those questions are. So when we analyzed, we found in relation to the first category, that is the basic needs, what do I get from the organization? So do you know what is expected of you at work? When this question was asked, 61.5% of them knew what was expected of them in the organization. And do you have the materials and equipments to do your work right? 54% of them had the materials and equipments which was required for them to do their work. So next comes the management support. What do I give to the organization? 4 questions were asked in this category. The first one was, at work, do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? 53.3% of them were able to do whatever they really wanted for the quality care of their patients. And does your supervisor or someone at work seem to care about you as a person? 49.1% of them felt they had got some amount of care from their superiors and the colleagues with whom they work. The third question was, is there someone at work who encourages your development? It is good to know that 88.5% of them had got some encouragement at their place of work. In the last 7 days, where you recognized or praised for doing your good work, 60% of them were praised for doing their good work. And the third category was teamwork. Do I belong to the organization? Again, 4 questions were asked. The first one, at work, does your opinion seems to count? We find that drastically it is coming down. 35.1% of them, their opinion only was counted or really listened to. Are your associates or fellow employees committed to doing their quality work? 53% of them are only committed to doing their quality work. Do you have a best friend at work? 75.3% of them had a best friend at work. And does the mission or purpose of the organization fulfill the job where you're working? 78.3% of them said yes. How can I grow? In the last 6 months, has someone at work talked to you about your progress? 73.2% of them felt that their progress was really talked to. And if I have a few ideas that can help our organization, I know how to communicate it to the management. Only 43.2% of them knew how to communicate whatever improvement they want to place before their organization. In the last year, have you had opportunity to learn and grow? Only 54.8% of them had the opportunity to grow in the organization. Some of the extra questions which out of curiosity which we asked was, which aspect of your job do you enjoy most? Teamwork, 17%, caring for patient, 12%. We find that they enjoy working as a team, and all the nurses who participated really enjoyed bedside nursing care. They wanted to care for their patient, collecting history, training program, ICU care. So all these aspects are some things which they really enjoy in caring for their patient. On the contrary, what are the most challenging aspects of your work? Here again, lack of teamwork, 10% of them. So the previous question, 17% of them enjoy teamwork, whereas here we find about 10% of them want to have teamwork in their area of work. Shortage in manpower, 9%, COVID crisis, 9%, training for new nurses, 8%, leadership, 7%. These were some challenges which the nurses faced at their workplace. What are your suggestions for ideal working conditions to be most productive? Patient-staff ratio, 11%, provide proper equipments, resources, and education, 9%, new advanced equipment, 8%, teamwork, 8%. Again, these are some suggestions which they really want to have so that their working environment would be made more ideal. What accomplishment in the last 6 months are you most proud of? They are proud of the positive feedback from their patients. 21% of them felt that when a patient gives a positive feedback, that was like a tonic or a boost for them. Improvement, 15%, COVID warriors or COVID patient care, 13%, proper nursing care, 9%, good patient care, 7%, and teamwork, 6%. Learning things quickly, 4.5%. How could your job be done differently? Online education, probably they felt that 27% of them was lacking in the online education, probably due to the COVID situation. Their education, the in-service education was lacking. Always to be with the team, 25%, 21%, empathy, 13%, by innovating new methods to ease the work, 12%. Engagement with the profession, do you see yourself as a practicing nurse after 5 years? 69% of them have said that they will be practicing after 5 years. And will you recommend your child for the nursing profession? 36% of them said yes, rest of them abruptly said no for sending their children to the profession. In conclusion, the overall best percentage, which we had already seen in all the 4 areas where basic needs, what do I get from the organization? 58% of them are able to get whatever they require. And the management support, What do I give to my organization? 62%. Recognition in the last 7 days, only 40% of them were able to get recognized. And in all their suggestions and feedbacks, if we find that what they were really longing for is to work as a team. They enjoyed working as a team. They want their voices to be really heard, and they really want to put forward certain suggestions. If that was taken up, probably they would have enjoyed it. At work, does your opinion seems to count? Only 35% of them found that their opinion was counted. And how can I grow? Only 57% of them found that they were able to grow in the organization. In summary, getting them engaged and get better results. Appreciate and recognize them more. Involve them. Ask them what works best. Create more relevant opportunities for them to grow. Create opportunities to get their ideas. Create a better work environment. And how to make nursing a desirable profession. Make flexible work hours. Develop a workplace culture. Develop a healthy working environment. Utilize a skillful communication. Institute staff recognition. Provide guidance, support, and resources to help staff nurses get engaged and successful. So Annie has to move a way forward. I need to brainstorm and publish a position statement on healthy work environment. I need to create a platform for bedside nurses to participate in creating the position statement. In conclusion, I would like to acknowledge the Executive Committee, Annie, for taking up this study. This will give a platform for them to do a lot of groundwork for the betterment of the working nurses. Signia Healthcare Academy for taking up the study along with Annie, and all the chapter presidents of Annie who really took it forward by sending the survey in and across the globe to get the data collected, and Annie Tamil Nadu chapter for analyzing and presenting, and all the participants who actively participated in the study. Thank you.
That was an insightful presentation, which has brought out many significant findings on effective nurse engagement in terms of effective and transparent to and fro communication, organizational and maybe departmental support in doing their best, and provision of safe environment in the hospitals. I must say that Association of Nurse Executives India is committed to have actionables out of this study being implemented for the betterment of our nurses right at their workplace. Thank you, Dr. Rosalind Rachel, for that wonderful presentation. The question answers we will have at the end of next session. Our next speaker for the day is Dr. Anu Kaushik, Director Nursing, Cloud9 Group of Hospitals. Dr. Anu is a nursing graduate from Ahilyabai College of Nursing and Masters in Psychiatric Nursing from RAK College of Nursing, both at Delhi University. And she has a diploma in Quality Management and Hospital Administration from Academy of Hospital Administration. She received her doctorate in nursing in 2016 from Maharshi Markandeshwar University in Ambala. Prior to joining Cloud9 Hospitals, he was General Manager, Nursing Quality and Training at Columbia Asia Hospitals, Head Education Programs at Fortis Healthcare, and Nurse Educator at Max Health Staff. He had clinical appointments at Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi, and Holy Family Hospital in New Delhi. In her 22 years of dynamic experience, Dr. Anu has a long list of achievements, like she's the National External Assessor for NQAS, Research Board member for Tirthankar Mahavir University, and she has presented many scientific papers and for national and international conferences. And what? She hasn't stopped at her laurels. She is currently pursuing Lactation Professional India Certification Program and is doing Nursing and Nutritional Program from Johns Hopkins. She had 6 scientific publications so far and has had published adaptations of Saunders NCLEX RM book for Southeast Asia edition and Bellier's Nursing Dictionary for Southeast Asia edition. Today, Dr. Anu is going to talk on the most difficult and contentious topic in nursing in these turbulent times. That is innovative nurse staffing. We know that conventional ways of staffing has tested us over the past 1 year, and let's hear from Dr. Anu what innovations are in practice now. Over to you, Anu.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I take this opportunity to thank Annie for giving me this wonderful platform to talk about such a need-oriented topic, innovative staffing strategies. As Mr. Soni rightly said, that the HR practices have evolved and have undergone a tremendous change in last 1 year. And it is the responsibility of nursing managers to adopt and implement these changes to keep up with the pace. Mr. Soni rightly said that HR practices have undergone tremendous changes in last 1 year. It is important for all of us to adapt and implement these changes to manage our workforce better. Nurse managers across the globe are struggling with staffing issues, productivity issues, and quality issues. So we have to change with time and adopt these changes to better manage our workforce. And we have seen that human resource is the most critical resource right now, and we really have to manage it very wisely. So how do we address this? I have put them into two main broad buckets. One is optimum utilization of nursing resources, and second is augmented with adoption of technology. So talking about the optimum utilization of nursing resource, the first point that comes to my mind is the skill mix model. This is a model which is being practiced in many countries and is a very successful model because it has proven results of enhancing customer experience, staff retention, and staff satisfaction as well. So in a typical hospital, you will see a nurse is being assigned to one patient and she takes care of the patient end to end, starting from hygiene needs to running around to lab or pharmacy, or taking the patient for diagnostic, medication administration, assisting in rounds, patient assessment, etc., etc. So is there anything that we can do to take away some of the activities or the tasks that can be done by somebody else so that we are able to utilize our registered nurse wisely? Getting registered nurses nowadays is very difficult. They are expensive resource. So let's use them wisely, use them for the skills that they can only do and nobody else can do, and take away the task that can be done by somebody else. This is a concept which is being implemented very successfully in US, where they have 3 levels: the RNs, the LPNs, and the UPAs. And I think this is something that we also need to look at, taking away like the hygienic part, running around tasks from the nurses so that they can work with the patient on the clinical side and monitor their clinical assessment and carry out their treatments accordingly. The second thing is open shift management. This is something that is being initiated in some of the countries where they have the nurse manager actually on a hospital software, they kind of highlight the open shifts or the shifts where they don't have the nursing staff to do the duties. They kind of give it as an option for the nurses who are either off or on leave, if they want to pick up those shifts, and they are being paid for doing these shifts. So this is I would say quite an effective tool, because the nurses actually can pitch in for helping the shifts where the nurses are not available. People choose those shifts because they can manage their convenience, and also they can earn extra money. And also in this, the nurses also have an option to put their request for the shifts that they would want to work for. So this is this actually gives a very flexible way of working to the nurses. The next is need-based staffing. That is a common pool concept in which the hospital actually have, the fluctuations or the variation in the occupancy. So you really do not know what is the right number of nurses that they should keep in a particular department. To give you an example of an NICU, you may have high occupancy on one day, and after 2-3 days the occupancy goes down. So what is an ideal number of nurses that the hospital should have? So in order to have address this issue, you can have a pool of nurses available as a standby. So they can be the nurses who really don't want to take a full-time job or want to work on ad hoc basis, or also you can create a pool of these nurses, and they can be at a central place, and this model really works out pretty well for the hospitals who have multiple hospitals in one city. So if the common pool of NICU nurses is being created, they can be deployed at different hospitals within the same city, and this is one of the smart strategy of utilizing the resources well. The next is patient assignment balancing. This is purely based on on calculating the patient acuity. Patient acuity refers to the patient clinical condition, and which help us to derive the number of resources that are required to take care of a patient. And this is a very fair way of doing a staff allocation or patient assignment, because sometimes it is being seen that if there are 4 patients in an ICU, one nurse get 2 patients, the second nurse get 2 patients, but the condition of these patients are very, very different. So one nurse ends up having light patients, or she's not that stressed out, but whereas the other nurse may be too stressed out, because both the patients are very critical and requires a lot of her attention and time. So this brings a lot of fairness in the system, and this also helps us to calculate the nurse intensity. Nurse intensity is the workload that a nurse has in a particular shift. So we can actually match the patient acuity with the nurse intensity, and we will be able to derive at the right allocation. The smart rostering during pandemic. It has been seen that especially during the pandemic time, that many of the nurses got infected because they were staying in the hostel together, and were sharing a lot of common areas. So what we have learned is that it is to address this particular issue, we have to create the cohorts of the nurses, and cohort 1, cohort 2, cohort 3, and so on. And based on the occupancy, once cohort will go for a specified number of days. Once their duty is over, then they come back, and they are being made to stay in a different place, and then the second set of nurses go in. So in this way, we are ensuring that the nurses are not coming in contact, and there is a batch of nurses which is taking care of patients in rotation, and this is really working out pretty well. Then is upscaling the young nurses. As we know that we're all having shortage of nurses, and getting experiences nurses is becoming really, really very difficult. So one of the smart way of handling this issue would be to train our young nurses, talk to them, develop a career roadmap for them, identify their training needs, develop them over a period of time, so that they are able to take up the senior roles over a period of time with adequate training and mentoring. And the last point that I would like to talk about here is a dynamic rostering based on business volume. So the traditional way of calculating the number of nurses required for a particular shift or for a particular month is based on the nurse-patient ratios. So in this particular model, it is the number of nurse requirements is being calculated based on the nursing activity. So it is calculated what is the resource a nurse would require for managing one type of a patient, and based on that, the number of nurses are being calculated. And this is a dynamic model, because the based on the business volume or the type of patients that will get admitted, the number of nurses are calculated, and they are on real-time business projection. Now let's talk about technology, as I said, that it is important for all of us now to adopt to technology, because technology adoption will help us to bring about better clinical outcomes. It will also help us to bring about better job satisfaction among nurses. So the first thing here is to support the bedside care team with virtual workforce technology. So in this, we are not asking or suggesting to replace the nurses who are there real time, but to support them with a set of nurses who are remote and who can manage the patient or monitor the patient constantly. To give an example, if the nurse has started blood transfusion, so she has to be there for 15 minutes, then half an hour, then 1 hour. So during this time, she will have to come to the patient room multiple times. So what we are suggesting here is this can be done by, this monitoring can be done by a nurse who's sitting, remotely, and she can do this task. And then this particular nurse who's actually present in the clinical area can manage the patients, and can focus on other activities, and this task can be taken, by other nurses. Second is automation. I think automation is something that's really a big thing now, and a lot of innovations have come in this particular area. One is the electronic health records, which we have seen is really, I would say a boon, because now the manual documentation pain has been taken care away. There are standard templates, the nurses writing, multiple sheets have been taken away. They are so automated, from the time the doctor prescribes, the indents automatically goes to the pharmacy. Then pharmacy dispense the medication, then it gets auto populated into the medication chart, so which makes the life of a nurse very, very easy, and she does, and also takes away all the running around that she has to do. Then there are concepts of inventory management. These softwares keep a track of the physical stock, they keep a track of the stock outs, the reorder level, past stocks, and also expiry items. They give alerts that these items which are coming close to the expiry, they need to be replaced. And we have now seen the infusion alarms, which gets really populated when the infusion is over, so it gives an alarm for the nurse to go and stop it. And then there is something that I saw very recently was on a drug cart alarm. So there's a drug cart, if there a medication level reaches below the past stock level, it gives alarms, so the nurse knows that, okay, I need to get these medicines added or replenished, because it is coming to it has come down below the past stock value. And the last thing here is adoption of automated patient monitoring devices. So there are some monitors, which are patient monitors, which are available wherein you can actually set the parameters of patient, and if they are dearranged, it will send alerts to the assigned nurse or to the supervisor nurse, so that prompt action can be taken. So this is so useful. You don't have to be at the patient bedside all the time, but still you are monitoring the patient. And very recently, I had one demo on the patient monitoring bands. The patient wears the band on the wrist, and all the vital parameters are being displayed at the nursing station. So the nurse is actually able to look at all the patient parameters, and she is very comfortable that all the patients are being monitored, and she doesn't get into a panic state. So I think it's important that we actually complement technology to manage our workforce. And so optimum utilization along with technology adoption, I think, will really do wonders, and we will have a very motivated workforce. As rightly said, without the right planning put to play in human resources, we build for the future without the future. So it's important that we manage our workforce wisely, so that they stay happy, motivated, because happiness means better clinical care. Better clinical care means better patient outcomes, and it's a win-win for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Anu. That was an interesting account of how innovative measures in nurse staffing has kept us going in these depleting situations. I'm sure you have got few action points using these methods of staffing of your units when resources are very, very limited around us. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a very, very interesting session and very thought-provoking session as well by our expert speakers in this most vital resource in healthcare setting, which is the employees. Probably the most difficult aspect of facing the crisis of COVID was keeping them engaged, keeping them meaningfully engaged, and managing the depletion in staffing. Their physical and mental well-being definitely would go a long way in achieving the organization's mission and vision. Thank you all the three great speakers. Now we will move on to some question answer sessions, and I would request the audience to shoot your questions using the question answer link on your screen. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving on to the question answer session, and we have some interesting questions which just popped up. And the first question is to Mr. Harshvendra Swain. You have traveled around the world. What are the strengths have you seen in Indian nurses? That's an interesting question.
Clearly, I think, and thank you for asking that question, Ajit. I think very clearly it stems from culture and ethos. And, the whole concept of who we are as a race or as a population, and our beliefs in our ancient mythology, whichever religion you're from. The caregiver definition in India is truly magnificent. And, I have been told this across the world that I have traveled. I've stayed in Canada for many years. And I can tell you that the epitome of nursing excellence is actually from here. And I think I can only salute all of you and say that what you do is every day makes us so proud. But clearly you have an edge. This is one place where we can tell the world that we are number one. So clearly the whole feeling, the ethos, the way our upbringing, the fact that we by nature have grown up respecting elders, by nature have grown up loving, small kids, etc. I think that comes out even in the profession. And honestly, kudos to all of you who set this high example for all of us.
Thank you, Harsh. We know that India produces the best nursing people in the world, and they are working across the globe in all hospitals probably. And it's good to know that they also appreciate, and probably the largest number of nurses, just by the sheer numbers of nurses working across the globe, would be from India, I'm sure. So one more question to you in this regard. Yes, we have said that we had been saying it all the while that nurses from India are great, and they are so very useful to the healthcare setup, and without them we can't survive and things like that. Harsh, how important is salary to engage the employees actually?
All surveys around the globe, and I'm saying every single one of them, put salary as number 10. But salary becomes important if other first 9 are not there. But truly, the number one factor for engagement and experience is the connect with the manager. Then is the connect with the association or the organization. And if that connect is strong, then you will see that salary actually is a hygiene factor at number 10. However, having said that, you need to have hygiene factors properly put. And the one thing that I would encourage healthcare professionals to look at, and these are all hospital chains and other healthcare professionals, try and invest in making nursing and maximum number of nurses actually become CEOs. And I have said that all my life, saying, the best, and there are a few examples I know of, but I wish there are more grooming, upskilling into leadership, because by nature, I think, the nursing community is fabulously aligned to become leaders and CEOs of companies. I don't think we have been fair. And therefore, once you do that, and you take the nursing to upskilling to become business heads, salary obviously will be taken care of, right? And I think we want to see more and more business heads of organizations, not only healthcare, but in outside healthcare, because you can come from wherever. In TechM, which is an IT company, we have a large healthcare practice. It's almost $500 million or $1 billion. I mean, it's a massive practice. So I'm just saying that even the nurses have to have the confidence that they need to aspire for really the moon, and they should aspire to become CXOs and CEOs of companies.
Absolutely agree with you, Harsh. I had been for past 1.5 years working as Chief Operating Officer responsible for the P&L of a hospital. And the experience what I have had as a nursing head over all these years has, in fact, given me an insight as to how you balance both the sides. The clinical side with patients, where your commitment primarily lies, and with the staff probably is the second, and then only comes the money. But however, if we do not make it, how are we going to survive? So it is as equal or more important than any of the other things too. So in my understanding, we cannot prioritize or say, which one is more important than the other. I feel all are equally important, and absolutely agree with you that nurses have the understanding and insight of balancing all these together. Only thing I feel is that, in our country at least, nurses are struck with a problem, which I call accountability phobia. What is preventing them from coming forward to occupy CXO chairs is probably that, not because they don't know what to do, but I don't know whether it is the bringing up problem or it is an acquired syndrome probably, that they get intimidated by questions from others, and they feel little incapacitated, and hence they don't come forward to occupy these positions. As you said, these trying times, and of late, pandemic or no pandemic, healthcare had been facing crisis in many ways than one. All the healthcare, especially in the private sector, was trying to make both the ends meet. It is such a difficult task. So I see a great future for the nurse leaders to enter into management cadres, only because of the fact that they know to balance the cost well, and it will go a long way for the hospital as well if the hospital choose to make a nurse as their CEO. We have a couple of examples in our country, and they are doing extremely well. And I hope in the coming few years, more nurse leaders come to this level. To just tell you a small example, I've had a boy who was working with me in Fortis Memorial Research Institute. I worked there for 5 years, and he had been there with me. And when I moved to Kerala, he came along because he's also from Kerala. And this guy with 7-8 years of experience was heading 2 hospitals, one after the other. After 1.5 years of heading a hospital operations, he has moved to another one, and he was heading that hospital. He's all of 32 and heading a hospital fantastically well. He has such a good understanding of P&L, I would say. I am so amazed at. And it is all learned from that Fortis, I would say, because whatever comes to we used to have a sharing with all the nurses. So what I would like to tell the nurse leaders listening to this is that, you get into business, and you participate your nurse leaders, your middle level leadership into understanding business, and they understand it more than anyone else if you explain to them, because they know both the sides. They know how to balance patients, how to balance doctors. Hence, thank you, Harsh, for that answer. Now I have a question to Anu. Anu, sometimes nurses are intimidated by skill mix model. How can you mitigate this fear of skill mix when you come to clinical area?
I think very apt question, and I have experienced it myself when I was a practicing nurse. But I think it's important for us, to adopt and implement changes which will help us to utilize our registered nurses very wisely and optimally. Just to give you an example here, like I'm talking about my job experience as a staff nurse, 22 years back. So I was given end-to-end responsibility of a patient, starting from the basic hygiene needs to running around to fetch the medications, taking the patients for diagnostics, administering medications, and assisting for doctors on everything. I was doing it. But was it a smart model? Was it utilizing my critical thinking, my knowledge or skills wisely? I would definitely say no, because there were certain set of tasks which can definitely be taken away from my job description. Like, is it necessary for me to run around to get the medications? Is there somebody else in the organization who can take this task? Is it like turning patient every 2 hourly? Is it something that can be done by or assigned to somebody else? So I think it's a very smart model, and it's not I would say a new model. This has been in practice in many countries. Just to give an example, during my visit to United States, I personally saw this model in one of the hospitals where the RN had a very specific role to perform. It involved high level of clinical knowledge application and skill application. And under her, she had the LPNs, the licensed practical nurses, then she had the UPAs, the unlicensed personal assistant. And each one of them had, a different set of activities. And this registered nurse was taking care of 10 to 12 patients in the ward. And she was doing all the the tasks which only an RN can do, and then she was having one LPN and a UPA to assist her in other activities. I would say a perfect example of a teamwork, a perfect example of utilizing the skills wisely. And I think let's get smarter into the way we work and we think, and I think it's imperative that we change with time. Otherwise, I think we will be at the same place where we are. It's important to change with time and get over your fears, because it's a model proven very successful in Western world.
Thank you, Anu. The pressure of situation will give us the courage to experiment new models. Let's ask another question to Dr. Roslyn now. Can you unmute yourself? Yeah. Mr. Harsh was talking about the best strategy to retain nurses and probably making them happy is to engage them. So we have had a survey on engagement, nurse engagement, and you have presented it. So the question which has come to you is, as an academician, what are your take on these study results? How can you implement few of them, or what is your recommendations? Because you have done the study and you know more details about the study. Over to you.
Yeah, the study turned out very well, where all the practicing nurses, that is the BSc and the diploma nurses, were more participants for the study. That was something good. So we really wanted to know how far the nurses were really engaged in doing the work. So we found that, many of them found the team work was lacking. So as an academician, what I would suggest here is, like, when a novice nurse enters into the area of practice, that's when the induction training is very, very important. So we need to, connect her to the group of people. So probably as an academician, I would suggest, the end of her internship, the 4th year, when she really enters into the clinical field where she's left alone. The first 3 years, she's literally being backed by the clinical instructors who are, sort of spoon feeding the child and monitoring and teaching her. And final year, when she comes in, when we really connect them with the staff nurses at the area. And if there is an integration between the service and the education hub, so definitely the students would get connected, and a novice nurse would very easily be anchored to the institution or to the management where she's working. That's the number one. And as we see, the youngsters are so enthusiastic during this time of COVID. I really appreciate my final year students who are all working in the government setup to really take it. They are so bold, they don't have fear at all. And when we asked them, even they said, we really want to serve the people. So that's when we found that that's the right time to tap them, and, and keep encouraging them and connect them. And they have lot of ideas which we need to just listen to. If we listen to them and we take up the ideas, and if we occupy them, we appreciate them, recognize their hard work, I am sure they'll be able to do a great job. So as an academician, a good induction training which will connect the novice nurses with the management would really, the connection is something which is very important. And in the process of doing it, recognizing them, appreciating them for all the good work, every day, some sort of, encouraging words would make them to feel that they are really wanted in the area. And nurses are the backbone of any organization. Anywhere where a nurse is really recognized at every point of it, we see that the hospitals really excel. So it's very important that we start off from the first year of nursing till we hand over to the the service side. We connect both together.
What is coming in from this discussion very strongly is the connect with the workforce. So how close we can connect with them, or how much they feel we connected to them is what is going to matter. My next question, which has come on my screen is to Harsh. Did this crisis teach new leadership styles during the last 14 odd months? So this is one question, and there is one more question for Harsh. That is, if you become Chief People Officer in a hospital again, what would be the top 2 things you will focus for nurses? Unmute, please.
Yes. Yeah. So the first part of the question, Ajita, I would say that leadership has actually changed completely. From the command and control that we used to have, it's now gone to resilience and ownership. And I think today, for leaders to be successful, the deep emotional connect with their employees is a must. No longer are leaders only successful because now they don't sit with their staff surrounded, right? It's as we go into, even in healthcare, as we go into virtual mode, as we go into e-health, as we get into platforms, etc., leadership has to definitely be to inspire and to be resilient. And I would encourage all leaders to move away from command and control and say, how can you teach people to be resilient, and how can you inspire people? On a second part, I think clearly, we, as you know, even in the first stint, I was very, very clear that ultimately, if you look at it, the nurse spends the most time with the patient. And whatever surveys we call, ultimately the brand of the hospital depends on the quality of nursing. And I would tell you that I think not only me, but everybody should really get inspired to upskill nursing in leadership. I think the one mantra that I would tell everybody is nursing in leadership. And by the way, when I was talking about being CEOs and CEOs, I'm saying, look, even beyond healthcare. Today, I know I have a few friends, in Canada, who are not in a healthcare company, but are nurses who are CEOs. And you will be surprised, one is in a retail company. But the fact is, you have, because of the work that all of you do, I think you are more insightful, the thinking is different, and it's so rich that don't even restrict yourselves only to healthcare. There's so much more. And then there's allied services like insurance. There's allied services like, today we don't have OPD insurance here, but they could be tomorrow in India. So I'm saying you could lead companies which could be in a healthcare space, allied space, but also in something that's completely different. So my entire effort would be to upskill and really unleash the power of nursing, and the potential of people is behind the nursing, which is the nurse and the person, both the professional and the person.
That is food for thought for me personally as well. Wow, nurses getting into other than healthcare. Yeah, good. So what I believe is, for success of any conference is we keep an eye on time as well. So I have, in fact, few more questions on my screen. But however, I have been, we had decided that we will, keep to the time, because time is as well. We have started at 11:45. I think the delegates have logged in to us, and we've had a very, very fantastic session, including the inauguration and track 1 and 2. Absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for all of you to be here and interact with the people. And I'm sure everybody has enjoyed the day as much as we enjoyed it together. For everybody, thank you, Anu, Harsh, and Rosalind for that fantastic session. And thank you so much, the audience, for patience hearing. I am sure that you had been really engaged today, at least, with this, and looking forward for another fruitful time tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.